What's up, guys? Today we're going to go from here to here using my Lightroom presets and Photoshop actions. So you can go to prophotoedits.com where you can download my Lightroom presets and Photoshop actions to help you edit, and you can follow right along because the raw file will be in the link below in the description. This is just some through the lens footage from the Z7 with face detect and the 58mm 1.4G on the FTZ adapter. Alright guys, so let's get into this edit. 58mm 1.4G on the Nikon Z7 face detect. With the lens like this, I normally wouldn't shoot it wide open this close, but it was my first shooting with it outdoors, and I wanted to just put it through its paces. I mean, eye autofocus probably would have helped out just a touch on this, but honestly all my other lenses are tack sharp at this close. Alright, so this is straight out of the camera, and what I did was I chose PPE Vibrant 13 for this one. I was probably just going down through some of the presets. It sometimes changes when you hover over it. Alright, and the only changes I really made to this was I like to shoot underexposed just because it retains so much detail in the shadows, but I bumped it up to plus 40, 0.40 on the exposure, plus 10 on the contrast, minus 87 on the highlights, the shadows to 92, the whites to minus 89, and the blacks to plus 26. Just lift those up a touch. I have the vibrance at 31 and the saturation at minus 28. So this is just the characteristic of the way I've set up my vibrant presets. They're in the pack with all the other 70 plus presets and all the other stuff that's going on in the background here with all the curves, and the way I have the contrast set up and all the curves really plays into why you'd want to do the saturation that low and the vibrance up like that. I mean, it just works, and the skin's nice and punchy, but it has an orange glow to it. And so let's take this into Photoshop and we'll fix it up with the rest of the actions. Okay, so now we're in Photoshop. We're going to break this edit down using my action set that you can get from prophotoedits.com, and this is going to be relatively simple. I try to explain it as best as I can. Before and after, we're going to do 3 or 4 things, and we're going to fix, now that we've basically color toned, we're going to pop out the colors more and fix all the skin issues. So let's go from the bottom up. So the first thing that you want to do is Command J, duplicate your background layer, and then go over here and select your patch tool. And what you'll do with the patch tool is just drag areas that have, like a blemish or something like that to a new area. And this is the easiest way. I'll speed this up for you guys, but you can even get laugh lines out of the way if you don't want them anymore. It's totally your call on that. Just bumps and blemishes or patchy skin. It's pretty easy to do with the patch tool before you get into any type of skin work, because any type of a bump will still show in the end photo. So spend 3 or 4 minutes doing this, and I'll just fast forward this real quick, but basically you're just getting rid of any blemishes, dragging them to a new area. You can grab the laugh lines if you want, totally your call, and kind of drag them away. This is kind of my style, I do that. Okay, so once you're done with that, we're going to go into frequency separation and just run this action. It'll give you the directions on the screen. I've typed them out for you, but I'll tell you now that we're doing it. Radius, I usually set it at 10 for a close-up portrait like this. You want to be able to see the eyes, but see them, as like a watercolor painting. And if they're any blurrier than that, then bring it back down to around 10. And then you want to grab your lasso tool and have your feather be 10 pixels. If your radius was 10 on the frequency separation, then keep this at 10. If it was 12, then set this to 12. Just keep them matching so it'll give your feather a real natural look. Go into your lower frequency layer, and just grab areas of the skin, not too big of an area, just keep it consistent. Gaussian blur in your blur gallery, everybody knows this, but the next step is kind of my specialty step. So I'm gonna set the radius. I don't want to take it too far, like up in the Barbie-tall land. That's just crazy, because we have a better way of fixing that. I'm gonna keep this to about 6.8. Looks about right. I don't go too crazy on this part, because the next step is where we're gonna fix most of the issues the correct way. And just go down the bridge of the nose. Don't cross over into the other side of the face there. Do this side of the nose on its own, then above the lip. And just to keep it consistent, we'll do the fingers. Alright, so nothing dramatic, nothing drastic yet. We just smoothed it out just a little bit. I don't even know if you'll be able to see this, but it helps for the next step. Okay, now this is my specialty thing. Skin Perfection, PPE. Run that action. It's going to give you the directions there, but I'm going to tell you what to do. So this brush right here, get a white brush. You can toggle between black and white with the X key on your keyboard. A white brush. The opacity is going to be 70%. The flow is going to be 1. And this helper layer right here, this letting you see everything that's a skin issue that your eyes really wouldn't pick up on. You're going to leave that on just while you're drawing those areas away. So make sure that you're on the Skin Perfection layer and not the helper layer. The helper layer is just there to actually help you out. Alright, so with your brush, your white brush, you're going to want to go into this and paint over the darker areas with the white brush. And only thing that you want to do is bring the gradient down. So if this is a highlight and this is a shadow, you want to leave a little bit of a shadow on the side of the nose because it shows, you know, dimension, but you don't want it to be harsh because it'll be distracting to the person looking at the photo. So you can bring this black line here underneath the eye down the correct way using this method instead of trying to frequency separation everything into flatness and getting the porcelain doll look. This is a little bit easier on the eyes, and it just makes for a better edit in the end. So this usually takes about 5 to 6 minutes. I spend sometimes 10, just depends on how detailed I want to get. Photos like this that have midday, you know, lighting, even though I had the light to the back of her head, obviously, it's going to be a little bit more involved just because it'll create extra shadows that you have to take care of. But everywhere that you see a darker area, just paint over it with your white brush until you see it disappear a little bit. Like these on the side of the mouth, get rid of those. Under the lip here, get rid of that and it'll slowly go away. You just want to keep building up your brush over top of it until you see it start to fade. All these little areas here, paint over top of those. And I'll fast forward this and we'll catch up when I'm done. Alright, so now that we're done with that step, this is what you want to see. You've drawn away all of the darker areas and it's looking real nice and smooth now. And your helper layer help you actually be able to see all that. If you turn it off, turn it on, you can see what we did. Now what we're going to do is going to run the next action on the list is dodging method 2. And it'll tell you what the tool is going to be doing, but it's going to select the tool for you over here. And it's going to set the tool to do exactly what it needs to do. The shadows and the exposure the right amount. And now just make sure that you're drawing on your mask here, your black mask. And only thing we're going to want to do is just swipe once, swipe twice, and then swipe the third time. And every time you make your brush smaller with the brackets here. So maybe like one bigger pass here under the eye, the second one, the third one. Okay, on the cheeks, 1, 2. You don't want to get too crazy with it. 1, 2, 3 under that eye. This is just to, you know, embellish what's already going on, to give a little bit more dynamic here. 1, 2, 3. Okay, so we're done with that. That's all we needed to do there. We just fixed a little bit more of the darker areas, but we also made them pop a little bit. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to sharpen the eyes up. We're going to run Eye Sharper PPE. Run that. Hit continue. And make sure that you're on your black layer here, your mask. And choose your brush tool. Set it at 75% opacity, 100% flow this time. And make sure your color is set to white. And what you're going to do is just draw over the eyes, the eyelids, or the eyelashes, I should say, the bottom part of the eyelid there. So now when we zoom in here, you're going to see that it sharpened the eyes. This isn't the sharpest lens, by the way, when you're close up, but it's kind of dreamy. My 51.4 Zeiss is extremely sharp. Sometimes it's actually too sharp. It wouldn't have given you this type of rendering, but it's still cool. Alright, so now what we want to do to do the eyes a little bit more, so we're going to go back at the dodging method part 2. Click over here on your layer mask and it's going to select your tool for you. You just want to go in here and draw over the catch light in the eye. We don't want to make it painfully sharp. That's already been accomplished with the preset, a lot of that work. Alright, so now we're going to do that one more time. Run that dodging method 2 again. Go onto the mask. Now what we're going to do is into the iris, into these areas that are lighter. Just going to draw over them, draw around the eye on the bottom part. Alright, now this is where it gets fun. Duplicate that, Command J. Alright, so now the eyes are brighter, but that's not exactly what we want. We want to click on this right here. It's going to take us into our curves. And now we're going to go up to the curve that I included that I've made for you guys, Eye Color 1. And it's a brown eye embellishment that I've made. And later on in videos I'll show you how to fix it for other color eyes. But you can pretty much do any color eye with it, but this is set to brown. So this is what we have right now. One more thing you need to think about is when you're giving this much contrast to the eye, you need to deal with it under the eye. So what we're going to do here is we're going to go to Eyeshadows PPE. Run that. Okay. Click on your layer mask here. Get a brush, set to white, and set it to 25% opacity, 100% flow. And just under the eye right here, hit it once, hit it again on this side just a couple times, and you're going to see that it's going to darken up under the eye just a little bit to make it more realistic looking. She's going to need a little bit of contrast there underneath her eye, and if it's too much you can bring it down just a touch. Alright, so there in a group we've done the eyes. Before, after, before, after. The eyes are nice now. The next thing we're going to do here is dodge and burn. I have an action set up for this. It's really easy. Your magic number here is going to be 8. So on this mask right here, black is going to burn. We've already done all the dodging work with dodging method 2. That's far more efficient than dodging like this. So we want to burn like this. So set it to black on your brush, 8% opacity, 100% flow. And all we're going to do right here is kind of add a little bit of detail back in, but we're going to add it where we want it. On the sides of the nose, under the nose here, under the lips here, under the chin just a bit, under the sweater, the brim of the hat. It's just going to give some contrast anywhere where there would be a shadow, but we're going to get to create our own shadows on the side of the nose. It's going to make it a little bit more dynamic. You can even do the line on the face right there. Alright, so before and after that, we're just giving it a little bit of a three-dimensional characteristic, and just grab your opacity and bring it down if it's too much for you. It's totally up to you, your call. Okay, so what I want to do in this image, I don't do all the time, but for this it'll work well because it just fits. Pop cheeks. Set the opacity to 50%, flow to 100. 50% on the opacity, flow to 100. And with white, you're just gonna make your brush as big as her cheek and just pop it on there. And it's gonna add a little rosy color to the cheek. I don't know if YouTube can pick that up, but it added just a touch. And it's enough for this image. Not to take it into fairy tale land, but enough to make it cool. Alright, so now what we want to do is we want to go to PPE Color Pop. Run that. And this is just going to pop your colors again. Now it's getting a little bit saturated and it's looking nice. So I'm bring that down just a little bit because I don't want to take it too far. Somewhere right around there. That looks good. And you can go to Contrast Pop, PPE1. Run that. And this is going to bring out the contrast for you. And you can decide how much is enough for you. I will bring it down just a bit. And now what we can do is we can go into the final couple steps of this. I like to tone the shadows a little bit different. So run Shadow Toning PPE. And this is just going to give you the option to have an image that's not as punchy, a little bit more dreamy. So to put it in a folder right here, and you open the folder, turn off all these colors that are options for you. And now what you want to do is just try them out. This is only going to put these colors in the shadows. It's created a mask and only selected out the shadows. So now, blues in the shadows, greens in the shadows, looks a little older. Yellows in the shadows. I would say that go with yellow tones in the shadows and double click on the color here and bring it down a little bit, right? Just bring the color closer to the blacks, and I'll bring the opacity down to like 10. I don't know if YouTube will pick this up, but it's the little things that just make the photo a little bit better. Alright, so then what we're going to do is complete image toning. Run that action. It'll give you instructions, but I'm going to walk you through it. It's real simple. Same thing as last time, except for we're going to be toning the entire image one more time. So now you get to decide what your overall tone is going to be. I think yellow looks good again. You can kind of, the orangish gold looks nice too. Maybe we'll go with that. And I'll bring this down because I don't like it to be too much. Maybe like to 3% instead of 6. Alright, so that's looking really cool to me. Last thing that I really want to do with this particular image is go to Stage Sharpening. Run that. And this will finish it off for you. Now what this is going to do is it's going to create 4 different layers of sharpening. So a lot of times people just put a high pass frequency layer on there and sharpen like that, and it's not very dynamic in a way. It just sharpens the entire image at the same amount, and it can look a little funky. So what this will do is it'll create 4 different layers going from lightest to darkest, and it'll sharpen them all at different amounts. So the brightest part, the eyes and the highlights, will be sharper than the shadows and the hair. We didn't need to pop the hair out because the way I positioned her in this image, I had the sun only kind of hidden here and on the very side of her face. So there was really no need to pop the hair with any other type of thing. So YouTube might not pick this up, but you're really going to want to do this. So at the end, turn that off. Turn it on, off, on. It's subtle, but it's sharpening in an efficient but still nice way that's kind of easy on the image. Okay, so what we'll do is we'll group it together again. Group. Started out after we did the preset. Finished it off. It's looking nice and smooth. Oh, I forgot. We needed to fix the lips. Okay, so we can just do this. Stamp visible layer on top. Command Alt Shift E. It's just going to merge everything. I didn't have to do this, but it's the quickest way to do it. Go back into the patch tool and just grab the areas of the lips that the lipstick was kind of funky. Alright, so now we're done. So before, after, everything that we did with our actions. Alright guys, so I'll see you on the next edit. Marcus, later.